Yeah. Excellent. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the War Room. This is for the main event, Rafael dos Anjos against Islam Makhachev. Okay, so let's quickly set the stage. So this was actually initially listed for UFC 254. It was rescheduled because I believe it was Rafael dos Anjos contracted COVID and it's been postponed and reorganized for the weekend. I don't know. I've been trying to find today. I don't know, but I assume it's been changed from a 3-round fight to a 5-round fight, which I do think is relevant for a few different reasons. First of all, okay, this is the truth of the matter. When we were trying to get ahead of the game before Fight Island, and we were trying to get all the War Rooms recorded so we could put them out before we got off the ground, we were due to record this one because obviously it was meant for 254. And I just had a feeling that it wasn't going to happen. The reason being is because it's RDA moving back down to 155. And he picked up a couple of losses at 155. He moved up to welterweight. He's 4-4 at welterweight. I'm going to discuss his career in a moment at welterweight because it's important who he fought and how he fought and what went down. My concern is I expected him to get run down or injured or sick because cutting that body weight back down is not easy, especially, what age is he? He's 2 years younger than me, so he's very young. So he's 36. It's not a good time to be forcing your body back down to a lower weight class, especially when you've let it breathe for a few years, which is what he's done at welterweight. So my concern for him is what's he going to look like at 155? And with that being a 5-round fight, that does change things because he has kind of got to grind and outwork and be more durable than my opponent. That's kind of his game plan. He is a technical fighter. He's very well rounded. He's got good Muay Thai skills. Walks people down very well. Picks his shots very well. Chops into the legs. Beats the legs up very, very well. Puts his combinations together, but doesn't overextend himself too much. But does take risks. He is a risk taker, which is why he's got 13 losses on his record. He is tough though, and tough over the distance with the best welterweights in the UFC. 5 rounds over the distance. He went 10 rounds with Covington and Usman combined. He's a tough, strong, durable individual. Him at 170, I think he's a different fighter, especially now at this age. So him going back down to 155, I have questions around what he's going to look like, how he's going to look over 5 rounds, if it is in fact 5 rounds, which for the sake of the breakdown, I will assume. Okay. Makhachev is a patient fighter. He's very skilled. He's very patient. He waits for the fight to come to him. He does get a little impatient and he will put his foot on the gas, but that's not usually until the third round. He's taken a few risks. He's only paid for it one time. That was a clean knockout. He got caught rushing in. He was being a little reckless, and he's been less reckless since that happened. He's on a 6-fight win streak at the moment. He's very hard to take down. He's got excellent takedown offense. Very kind of, again, patient with his takedown offense. He's quite happy to defend takedowns. It gets to a point where he feels there's no point in playing takedown offense anymore, and then he switches it on his opponent. He's not, although he kind of lives a little bit in the shadow of Khabib, he's not the dominant wrestler that Khabib is. There have been times in the UFC where he's been troubled a little bit on the floor. Chris Wade pushed him a little bit. There were points where Chris Wade was deep in a triangle and was able to get out of that, which I would argue that if that was Khabib, that would have been, sleep time. So there is room in this fight, I feel, for RDA to use that toughness and use that experience to get himself out of some bad situations if he does find himself in them. I expect RDA to try and march him down and try and beat him up with long-range Muay Thai and a slightly higher volume. If we look at the UFC stats here, they kind of point in a similar direction. So you've got a higher strike rate from RDA, but a lower accuracy, almost 10% lower accuracy. But strikes absorbed per minute. Again, look how high that is in comparison to Islam Makhachev. So there is Makhachev he's a bit more calculated in his approach. His skill set's not quite as broad, and he does tend to get into the habit of throwing single shots. That's what we saw in the Ramos fight, which he was tentative in the Hamosh fight to the point where it was a little bit of a stalemate. And he was just winning rounds because of a lack of work effort from his opponent. A moth or something around that light. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted. Okay, where was I? So, what I expect, especially if this is a 5-round fight, and forgive me if I labour that point because I have tried to find it today and I don't know where I would get that information. Or the Raptors go on get one of the Raptors can get on it. If it is in fact a 5-round fight, it gives Makhachev the time to coast a little bit, to allow RDA to work at 155 again, which I would imagine will be a bit taxing on him. Getting down to that weight class and feeling healthy for 25 minutes is going to be a test for him. And I don't think he's got any other way of fighting. I think he approaches it the same way as he always does, where he works at a nice, steady, confident pace, where he walks people down. He uses a good volume of Muay Thai strikes with a bias towards low kicks to slow Makhachev down. Another thing that's worth mentioning is the fact that these are both southpaws. Most of the time, they're both southpaws. I think it suits RDA slightly more, given the fact that he's got a more basically fundamental Muay Thai set. How best do I say that? Like he's got his skill set in Muay Thai is traditional. It's a classical jab, cross, hook, low kick. Jab, cross, inside low kick, body kick, step knee. Like there's a rhythm and a consistency to it. With Makhachev, he kind of waits and he hangs back and he's got a powerful left hand. He's got a good check hook as you're coming in and covering distance. And he's got a very good body kick, which he can lift up to the head if he needs. But he tends to stitch them together kind of randomly as you move into range. And he picks you off, as you come in. What do you say, 5 rounds is it? It's 5 rounds. Okay. According to MMA Junkies, it's 5 rounds. We'll take their word for it and continue on with that assumption. So I expect RDA to come back down to 155 with a welterweight mentality, feeling like he can kind of bully people around at 155 because he's bigger and stronger naturally. He was always a big, strong 155er anyway. Maybe not as tall. I think he 5'8". Yeah, he gives up a couple of inches in height to Makhachev, which I don't think makes too much of a difference to him. Reach is the same, both 70 inches. I feel like he's going to try and walk Makhachev down. He's going to try and beat up his lead leg and try and smother the power of Makhachev's left side. His power left kick. I think at some point he's going to be trying to push for a takedown. I think Makhachev is going to be up against the fence defending takedowns, which we've seen him have a lot of success. In that range again. Times when he's been challenged by people up against the fence, he's focused on his takedown defense to a point, and then he's reversed it on them. Nick Lentz was the name I was looking for, another veteran fighter, which puts him in good stead for taking on a veteran like RDA. But it will be the first time he's fighting over 5 rounds. See, in the Nick Lentz fight, that started off with Lentz closing distance and trying to get Makhachev up against the fence. Makhachev was defending for a period of time, and then he decided he'd had enough of that, and he reversed it and put it on Nick Lentz. He does have the option of turning it around and being more aggressive with his wrestling if needs be. And I think if he's forced to wrestle past half a round with RDA, he'll start engaging more in the wrestling. Which, to be honest, I don't know who that favors. I think a healthy RDA at 155 looking strong will be able to control top position for a decent amount of time. But Makhachev's ability to scramble and to move and to not accept being on the bottom, I think that's what's really gonna push RDA into those later rounds. What haven't I said? Just a quick focus on RDA's career at welterweight, because it's for someone to go 4-4 in the group of fighters that he faced. And he is a small welterweight in comparison. He's one of the first people that I mention when I talk about that 162 weight class, because he's one of the perfect figureheads for it. He's just a bit too big for 155, but he's not quite big enough for 170. And it's frustrating for him, but he's 5'8", and he's at that age now where getting back down to 155 is going to be a struggle, which is why I'm I think Makhachev has got an opportunity here to get a big win on his record over someone that can really propel him in the rankings and in the opinions of the other people in the division. Okay, RDA at welterweight. He got a unanimous decision over Tariq Saffiedine, who's an excellent fighter, a very efficient striker, a very dangerous individual. That's a good win. He got a first-round arm triangle over Neil Magny. That is an excellent win. We can't underestimate how good Neil Magny is, how difficult he is to pin down and control, especially with that being a first round. He's got a unanimous decision over 5 rounds against Robbie Lawler, which, for anybody to stand for 25 minutes in front of Robbie Lawler and not get knocked unconscious is impressive. You have to have a good understanding of range management and the risks you're taking in those fights. 2 losses on his record, Colby Covington for the interim championship and Kamaru Usman, the current champ. No shame in either of those losses. Both 5-round defeats, though, which, again, speaks to his toughness. Then he beat Kevin Lee by 4th round arm triangle. Now, what's interesting is he's got 2 arm triangles at welterweight, which is a new submission if you look at the rest of his career. If you look further into his career, it was much more about, he was stopping a lot of people, but it was much more about rear naked chokes. There's an arm bar in there. I think there's an inverted triangle, Kimura. Rear naked chokes, though, that is the thing that comes up repetitively. So the arm triangle seems like a solution to bigger, stronger guys. I don't know whether there's a reason he's gravitated towards that, but he got Neil Magny in the 1st round, he got Kevin Lee in the 4th round, and he was able to drown Kevin Lee with pressure. That was the breaking point in that. It wasn't that Kevin Lee got caught in a fantastic submission, because Kevin Lee in the 1st round wouldn't have been caught in that, because he would have had the determination to fight out of it. By that point in the fight, RDA just wore him out. He'd taken the fight out of him, and there was a submissive element to the way that arm triangle went in. I would say that the ability for RDA to wear people down is still definitely there. And then 2 more losses in at welterweight. One to Leon Edwards, who, as we know, is top 5, one of the best welterweights in the UFC right now. And then Michael Chiesa, who's just recently moved up to welterweight, but I can tell you firsthand, standing next to him in Fight Island, he's huge. There's no way that he doesn't have a towering advantage over RDA. So again, he's going the distance with some big, strong, powerful individuals that have got a good pace, that have got good wrestling. All the questions for me about RDA are nothing to do with his skill and his ability. It's all about his move back down to 155 and where Makhachev's at. Now there's no limit to his ceiling. Now Khabib's potentially out of the picture. Makhachev can sprint full blast at the title and not really worry about anything getting in his way. So there's going to be a newfound determination from Makhachev. He's got an opportunity against RDA, who's going to be, in question until he steps in there looking healthy and does a couple of rounds. But certainly a test for Makhachev. If he waits too long, if he allows RDA to start bulldozing him down in those first 2 rounds and beating up that lead leg, that's going to be a problem for the rest of the fight. And that's where RDA can start to take the fight out of you. I won't be surprised seeing RDA, dominate him on the ground a little bit as well and kind of big brother him. It's going to be the conditioning and the determination that is the deciding factor in this one. Should be a good one. Enjoy the fights.